Welcome back to the ETF Inspector. It's Sunday, November 16th, just about 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and this is our week look ahead and payment guesstimate video for LFGY and blocks. LFGY is YieldMax's crypto industry portfolio option income ETF, and blocks is XFUND's Nicholas crypto income ETF. So both very much related, very similar, and we will go into those similarities and differences in just a minute. A reminder, I'm on X at ETF_Inspector1. I let you know when videos are premiering. I also repost the announcements from the companies. So if you're looking for your, say, distribution from blocks, it got announced on the 13th, and it is actually not even on their website yet. So it's good to follow that and get that announcement. All right, let's take a look. It was a horrible week for crypto. It's been a horrible couple of weeks. LFGY was down almost 14%. Now, 50-ish cents of that drop is their distribution, so it's not all loss, but that doesn't really help much. Even if you take that out, it was still 11, almost 12% drop based off of how the week went, and the month hasn't really been any better, down almost 25% over the past month. And so let's take a look at blocks. Let's go back to the week for starters. A rough week for them as well, 18.5%. I believe that was worse than what we just said for LFGY. Yes, so blocks, which was supposed to be outperforming LFGY. That was the big push that they only pay out so much and the rest goes into growth of the fund. Well, they got hurt even worse in the down week, and similar, 27.36% down on the month, 27.3, 24. So they are worse off over this entire downturn than LFGY has been. So that's a little bit surprising. All right, let's take a look at our spreadsheets. We're going to start with LFGY. We've got a lot more information on them. So first off, over the course of the week, they made approximately 210 trades in LFGY. No trades on Monday. Tuesday, just options. Where are we? Wednesday looks like just options as well. Thursday, just options. And Friday, they did sell a small portion of their Robinhood shares. It was not a complete closeout. It was just a trimming. So pretty much just all options trading for the week. That resulted in a credit of $241,000 on Tuesday, $537,000 credit on Wednesday, $1.8 million credit on Thursday, and then when they basically rolled everything on Friday, they collected another $9.2 million. So of course, you're going to win your trades. If you're selling calls and everything within your fund drops, everything will expire worthless. So they brought in $11.8 million on the trading week. If that was the only thing we were going to use for the estimate, we would divide that by the amount of outstanding shares, and it would be $1.81 per share. I'm here to tell you they're not paying you $1.81 per share, especially after how bad that week went. So these were all realized gains, and now on those same days they had unrealized losses because their share prices were dropping throughout the week. So values dropped by $662,000 on Monday, dropped $7.6 million on Tuesday, dropped another $3.5 million on Wednesday, dropped another $13.8 million on Thursday, and finished off with a decline of $2.6 million. So overall on the week, they lost $28 million in value. That's not an official loss because they didn't sell everything. So it's just unrealized losses. All right, so next we got to come up with a better estimate, and they tell us to take a look at the IV, the implied volatility. To do that, we're going to switch back over pages real quick. And I like to use Market Chameleon. Very easy to just keep on plugging in tickers and getting 30-day implied volatilities. I wish we could have a good website that we could just quickly get 7-day IVs, but that's just not in the cards, I guess. So it's just giving us a ballpark. We know it's not exact, and I'm only doing it on the shares themselves so that I can multiply them by a weighting. But we do know that the options implied volatility counts too. So again, this is just a ballpark for us. As we take a look, we've got 24 underlyings in which we actually own the underlying. I am counting IBIT because we did a tax loss harvesting and actually sold our shares, but then we bought $10 calls on a $50, $60 share price. So they're practically the same as shares. So there's 24 underlyings plus one more MBTX where we don't own any shares, but we do trade the ticker. Okay, and with that, that's going to make your average weighting about 4.1%. So they are fairly evenly allocated. You're going to get some swings higher and lower. Let's see, IBIT being one of our biggest, 6.69%. Coinbase, another big one, 6.86%. We got a couple on the lower side too. In the twos, looks like BitDeer at 2.48% might be the lowest. But in general, we're all within a couple percent of average. Now, that gets used in the multiplying of the implied volatility to come up with the weighted average of the entire fund. Bullish went up this past week to 93.7%. Bitmine immersion dropped, but it's still high, 109.4. Same as the case for BitDeer, dropping to 106, and Cypher dropping to 114.6, and CleanSpark dropping to 108.4. So even with these drops, over 100 implied volatility is going to really help keep our IV of the fund high. Coinbase increased to 67.7. Core Scientific increased to 91.1. Circle Internet Group, for some reason I could have swore that was a decrease when I typed it in, but not a big deal whether it's increase or decrease. I might have one wrong here. 81.3. I thought it was over 100 last week. iShares Ethereum Trust increased to 77.7. Galaxy Digital dropped to 96%. GameStop increased to 64.6%. Robinhood increased to 68.8%. Hut 8 Corp might be the highest, 125.3. I don't think I've mentioned one that high, and I don't think I remember one higher. Nope. So Hut 8 Corp is the highest implied volatility, and they are pretty close to an average weighted holding at 4.2%. IBIT increased to 51.3%. Mara up to 90.8. That's high for them. That's an increase. Mercado Libre dropped to 38.2. Strategy increased to 78.9. They're getting real high. Not that long ago, they were struggling to stay above 50. NU Holdings dropped to 39%. NVIDIA dropped to 51%. Opera increased to 40.2% on the implied volatility. PayPal dropped to 36.2. Riot increased to 100.8. SharpLink Gaming was a decrease to 88.8, and Block decreased to 48.9%. So all in all, if I was right on Circle, it's 13 increases with 11 decreases. Those could be off by one each if I got my Circle backwards. But overall, that is an increase from last week. We were at 73.19% last week. We're up to 74.78%. You can see that nice long formula for that. But our share price is way lower than it was last week. Again, like we said, would we lose 13, 17% over the course of the week? 13.8. So on Monday, we were starting at 33, 32, and we ended at 28.69, losing nearly $5 a share. So that's very rough. So when we put all that in, we come up with 41.26 cents per share. Next, we're going to take a look at previous payments. Just last week, they paid 50 cents, 55 before that, 58. They had a real nice run in the 50s, lower 43 there. And 37 is, I believe, the lowest of all time back in September. I checked this before, but I don't trust myself, so I'll check it again on the video. Correct. So September 10th announcement for 37 cents was the lowest ever, but and our math is putting us around 41, but let's take a look at September 10th. Our share price was in the $34 to $35 range. We're nowhere close to that. I don't think we're getting that, so I think we're setting the new record for the lowest distribution on LFGY, 36 cents. That would be a 65% annual yield payout. And I wouldn't be surprised if it was lower. All right, next we're going to take a look at the week ahead. We've got all our holdings updated, and so we can see where our options sit. Almost everything is sold for this coming Friday. In general, it's a covered call strategy here. Most of the time they're selling a call out of the money, buying another call even further out of the money. It's a call credit spread, but there's a couple times we have a put debit spread and a put credit spread in there as well. So we'll start off bullish. I'm only going to highlight really what we're selling to generate income. Selling the $46 calls, they're 19.5% out of the money. Bitmine selling $38 calls, 10.3% out. BitDeer Technology calls are sold at $12. They're 14% out of the money. There's $14 million in cash. I think that's a little higher than usual over here. $3 million in First American Government Obligation Funds. Cipher Mining, we've got $17.50 calls sold for the Friday the 21st, 21%, almost 22% out of the money. CleanSpark calls are sold at 13. They're over 18% out. Coinbase sold their calls at $297.50, 4.75% out of the money. Core Scientific selected $17.50 for their strike price. They're 17%. Circle Internet Group calls are sold at 95, 16% out. iShares Ethereum Trust are at $25.50. They're 7.6% out of the money. Galaxy Digital strikes are sold at 29. They're 10% out. GameStop sold at 21.50. They're 4% out of the money. Robinhood's got 130 selected, 6% out of the money. Robinhood seems to have weathered the recent storm pretty well, especially if you're talking about from when they got added to the S&P. Obviously, they ran up real nice to 150, but big picture, they're still up from getting added to the S&P. Hut 8 Corp, $40 strike price, 8.2% out of the money. iBit selling calls at $55.50, 3.7% out. Mara Holdings, $15.50 or 29+% out of the money. MBTX is the put spread that we actually cashed it out last week and adjusted it lower, so they are still betting on MBTX to continue to go lower this year, expiring on the last day of the year, buying the 195 put, so they need it to go down below that or approach it very quickly in a short amount of time in order to win that trade. Shares are at 231 right now and pretty beaten down. Mercado Libre sold calls at 21.40. They're 4.4% out of the money. MSTR Strategy calls are sold at 230 and 235, pretty evenly spaced. 261 and 241 contracts, 15 and 17+% out. NU Holdings calls are sold at 16% out of the money. They're only $16, 1% out of the money. NVIDIA calls are sold at 195. They're 2.5% out. Opera, or stock ticker Oprah, $15, $16, and $18 calls sold expiring Friday, 11, 18, and 33% out. PayPal, this is the only one where they are selling a put credit spread, sold the 66s. They're 5% in the money. They're going to need PayPal to rise $3.19 just to get back to even. Riot Platforms, 1450. Call strike price 3.9% out. SharpLink Gaming sold their calls at 11. They're 1% out of the money. And Block, 7.5% out of the money with their $65 calls. Assets under management, 185 million. So we were just at like 220, 230 right before this downturn happened. So they got roughed up. On Friday, people sold out of the fund 125,000 shares, bringing the outstanding shares down to 6,525,000. The NAV is now 28.44. That's what one share is worth if you just take the money value divided by the shares. And it generally trades at a little bit of a premium. So right now it closed at 28.69. Most recently, last week, they paid 50.46 cents per share. The average call now for the fund is almost 12% out of the money. So they can have a real nice rebound in crypto and capture a large amount of that in the share price before they start having to worry about closing out trades, paying to close out trades. But that is, of course, an average, right? 11%. Obviously, let's say something like NU Holdings can't go up 11%. Their calls are only 1% out of the money. But you've got others like Cipher Mining that could go up 21%. So, all right, quick recap. Guesstimate, lowest ever, 36 cents per share. Next, we have Blocks. All right, our coverage is not quite as good or in-depth on Blocks. They don't share their trades for starters, and they also don't update their holdings until Monday. So this is actually how everything started on Friday for them. The one nice thing is because the week was so ugly, they did close out and roll the majority of their options. We do see, I've highlighted them just so we know that they are expired and no longer in play. But for the most part, excuse me, most things are updated to next week or further. So I've got it highlighted in yellow here. BitF, BITF, Bit Farms Limited out of Canada is a new addition to the fund. They were not there last week. They're in there this week. Almost 1.2 million shares with a $2.60 share price. So that's a new addition. No options on it. Next we got Bullish. So that's the only addition. All right, and then Bullish, they're trading put spreads on them, selling the $43 puts. Bitmine Immersion, trading put spreads on them as well, selling $38 puts. Webull, $9.50 puts sold on theirs put spreads. I can't talk. Not keeping a ton of money in cash, 1.4 million. Cipher, let's see, we got a put spread. Selling the 16s. We got more put spreads selling 21s and 19s, all for this Friday. Coinbase, put spreads again, selling the 290s and the 285s. Circle Internet Group, put spreads selling the 91s. Sorry, double checking myself. CoreWeave, they've got put spreads selling the 9250s. How's that? Something's not making sense. They're selling a $92.50 put spread on CoreWeave, and the share price is at $78.34. Let's check it. Yeah, even worse, 77 because it went down Friday. So way underwater on their put spreads, but that's the nice thing about the spread. Both the short and long put have gone into the money, so they can't lose any more money regardless how much it goes down as far as that option's concerned. iShares Ethereum Trust ETF, $28 put calls. I'm sorry, got it backwards. Call spread, they're selling the 2650s. FidelityWise Origin Bitcoin Fund, looks like they trade a call spread on these. They most likely rolled them on Friday. Obviously, these expired Friday, so we don't have the new information, but we can just assume that they're going to continue trading a call spread. Since we're right here, I do want to point out the 3 largest holdings equate to around just over, I think, 42% of the holdings within the fund, that being 9.4% in iShares Ethereum Trust ETF, 16.28% in the Fidelity Wise Origin Bitcoin Fund, and 16.39% in the Van Eck Bitcoin ETF, HODL. All right, first American Government Obligation Funds, 4.3 million. Galaxy Digital, they're trading put spreads again, selling 28s and 29s. Again, share price, it has dropped below that. No options trading on HODL. I keep saying this every week. I ought to look it up one of these times and see if there are options. Or somebody can just let me know in the comments since I'm going to forget. Robinhood, put spreads are traded, selling the 122s. Hut 8 Corp got put spreads again. Let's see, selling 37s and selling 43s. Everything's in the money except for the last long leg of the $35 put there. Iron trading put spreads, 49s and 55s sold. Mara, only these first 2 lines are options for Mara. They sold puts at $15.50. Then we switched to MBTX, similar to LFGY. They do not own shares. They just trade options. They are selling call spreads where they sell the 240. It looks like they were also doing a couple more similar call spreads. Oh, excuse me. Sorry, I was at a soccer tournament all day. I didn't know I was going to be falling asleep mid recording. Strategy, formerly MicroStrategy, trading put spreads, selling the 230s and the 220s. Nvidia, put spreads again, selling the 187.50s. Riot Platforms, so it's almost all put spreads here. Put spreads, selling 16s and 17s. And Taiwan Semiconductor, they let these make it to Friday, so obviously they would have probably closed them out and started the next one. But last week they sold a 290 put spread. I'm sure with a closing price where it was, they probably lowered their strike prices. All right, since last week's video, they have increased in outstanding shares by 500,000, bringing it up to 9,525,000. They did recently celebrate breaking the $200 million mark, but then crypto got its teeth kicked in, so they are back under with a net asset or asset under management of 186 million. That would bring the NAV to 1962. Closing price on Friday, 1926. So again, though, these numbers are all basically based off of closing prices Thursday because they have not updated after close on Friday. So obviously they dropped and got roughed up. The NAV is going to be below that closing close to or below that closing price. They did announce, let's see, I think I shared it already, but just in case, 15.29%. It's basically always the same, 36% distribution rate. We can obviously expect it to go lower as the share price continues to drop. It's lower than last week's. So the guesstimate, if the price of blocks stays the same this week, then the guesstimate for the announcement that we'll get this week is around 13.3 cents per share. The 15.29 that they announced has already gone X. It went X on Friday and will pay on Monday the 17th. So far, they've paid around $3.19, and that averages out to like a 17-cent distribution. Okay, so that's all I have for you on our crypto ETFs, blocks, and LFGY. So I'm going to go ahead and end it. I got a dad joke for you. So thank you for the likes, shares, comments, and all the support. Sorry to get this video out later than usual, but nothing I can do about it. So, all right, dad joke of the day. Authorities are reminding the public of the difference between unlawful and illegal. One is a violation of the law, and the other is a sick bird. All right, thank you. Have a good end of your weekend, and I'll catch you in the next video. Good luck trading tomorrow. Have a good night.